Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar sponsored by PCCW Global. This is Channel Vision editor Gerald Baldino here, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Over the next hour, we'll be exploring PCCW Global's software-defined interconnection platform and how it's helping businesses connect to networks, clouds, and partners on demand, privately and affordably. You'll learn all about SDI and why it's a key technology that you should be exploring in 2020. Our presenters today will be Paul Cadwell, who is Director of North American Channel Sales at PCCW Global, and Jay Turner, who is Vice President of Development and Operations. If you have any questions at all during the webinar, please submit them through the Q&A portal, which is located at the bottom of the Zoom platform. The Q&A session will take place at the end of the presentation. At this point, I'd like to turn the webinar over to Paul, who will provide an overview of PCCW Global. Paul?
Thank you, Gerald. Appreciate you doing the intro. I'd like to also thank all the sub-agents and agents out there that decided to take the time to listen to us today. I know webinars are sometimes overwhelming as far as spam and such, so it's good to see a lot of people join today. So with that said, let's jump into the slide deck. I really don't need to go over that agenda. I think we'll get more in depth into that here in a minute. What I wanted to make sure is everybody on our call knows a little bit about our parent company. PCCW Global is the international arm for HKT, Hong Kong Telecom, / PCCW. And they're based out of Hong Kong and have been in business for almost 100 years and employ over 17,000 employees in a $4.5 billion industry. Revenue rather, and right now we're currently a little over $1 billion of that, and we've been in the U.S. for about 17 years with the global arm. And I just really wanted to show you that we're a very well-established company, tier one provider, and a very strong network. Next slide. With this slide, I really just like to touch on the fact that we have 58 regional offices throughout the globe. And how does that benefit a sub-agent or an agent is that we have feet on the street in all those regions, and their job is to form relationships with the local LECs. And that allows us to leverage better pricing, to negotiate on the customer and your behalf for better pricing. We don't typically price out of a price book. We like to reach out to the region and get a fresh, accurate quote. That's kind of an advantage. We feel like it's a differentiator for us. We get a pre-sales engaged right off the bat and then go out and get a fresh price for you. Another thing is we're in over 3,000 cities and 160 countries and growing. Next slide. Talk a little bit about our business. Next slide, please. Just taking a minute. Thank you. In the past, our company has always been built off our network, and that's probably the most important thing we can hang our hat on. It's kind of our differentiator over a lot of these other cloud providers, that we are running everything over our own network. In the past, you'll see the timeline there. In 2012, we acquired a company out of Africa called Gateway Communications, and in 2014, we took on a security company called Cryptia out of Spain. And then in the last 3 years, we've added VoxClever along with Council Connect, which we're going to talk about today. And in 2018, we also did some acquisitions with Lean and also Agile. And if you see, we go from past to present to approaching, everybody's going towards the cloud, but we feel with our network infrastructure, it's kind of an advantage and a differentiator over a lot of the other cloud providers. Next slide. With this one, I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds with this slide because Jay's going to talk quite a bit about this today, but our digital platform, Council Connect, is the main reason you're on the call today. He's going to talk pretty in-depth on where this is going and the ecosystem and such with our network fiber and our core in the middle. So I'm not going to touch on all those solutions that we offer. I'll let Jay kind of touch on that more. I just wanted to show you kind of the quick slide on some of the things we've done over the last few years using our network, our MPLS layer 2 and layer 3 to kind of tie in with SD-WAN, and everybody's going to that concept. Now I'm going to turn this over to, or actually I've got a few more slides, I'm sorry, with the global network. Just touching on this real quick, with our fiber network, we have 121 POPs and growing, 31 countries, 48 cities. This is the fiber end of our business. It's very strong and robust, very resilient, and I feel like it's definitely something that's worth showing our map. So if you go to the next slide, Bobby, it's got our MPLS and IP. And this is really what the SD-WAN and the cloud is running through. Like I said earlier, we're on 160 countries, over 3,000 cities, and we're a top 10 tier 1 provider that a lot of people don't know about us. From a wholesale perspective, everybody knows PCCW Global. We just won some awards last week at the MEF. But from an enterprise side and from a sub-agent side, a lot of times we have to educate the customer and the sub-agent on who we are and what our capabilities are. And kind of a best kept secret, in my opinion. Next slide. Now this is where Jay's going to take over for the next few slides and talk about our SDI offering, and I'll talk about Council Connect. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks so much, Paul. Thanks everyone for joining the webinar today. My name is Jay Turner, as I was introduced there at the top. So I'm going to walk you through some of the kind of really interesting aspects of Console Connect, which is obviously a software technology that PCCW Global acquired from a few years ago now and has offered as part of their corporate network, but also kind of the software-defined networking and software-defined interconnect kind of landscape, where it's going with respect to the enterprise these days. And speaking of enterprises, there really is a challenge for enterprises these days. As enterprises are trying to string together multiple clouds, and they're external to the walls. They've got clouds internal to their own data center facilities. Every single one of these clouds, both internal and external, has their own tool sets that they are expecting the customer to be able to use and to be, some sort of, quasi-expert at in order to, function highly with those. This is just becoming untenable for enterprises, and they're really looking for consolidated tools which allow them to support automation into these various endpoints, and in particular, automation via API, via application programming interfaces, because that allows the enterprise to then incorporate the automation into their own tools that already exist. And then that acts as a multiplicative effect to allow them to really scale on the effort that they put in to be able to build their networks and build even more complexity into their networks as they move forward. So next slide. We should have a little video on the next slide here as soon as it comes up. There we go. So we're going to play a little video for you here that gives kind of a little over a 1 minute overview of kind of the foundation of Console Connect. I think the video is being shy. And still being shy.
Hi, everyone. Just bear with us for one moment. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Excellent.
Okay, so sorry about the audio there. We promised this worked in our pre-trials, but moving on. Software-defined interconnection, and this is actually a term that the Console Connect team developed and actually ended up holding the trademark on as a result. But really, what we're trying to kind of consolidate there is this ability to really unlock the network potential for enterprises. And you see here a couple of tenets of this software-defined interconnection kind of theory and mantra. We do want customers to be able to avoid vendor lock-in, and what that allows them to do is it puts the freedom in their hand to select the tool or service provider that is the best fit. And enterprise to enterprise, obviously, that the metrics and variables that go into best fit are going to differ. So we want to leave that decision to the customer, to the enterprise. Open standards, this is something that is fundamental to the Console Connect development team, as well as really PCCW Global as a whole. Really indicative of our efforts with standards bodies like the Metro Ethernet Forum, for example. By creating a standard and working to define that standard, and then working to have partners come together and collaborate on that standard, it makes it so much easier for our customers and partners also to integrate with that, to play in the same sandbox. And the net result is that everyone benefits as a result. So, it's not a splitting effect. It's not a divisive effect. It's really a community and collaborative effect. It was very important to us with the development of this software and this application service that customers and enterprises be allowed to fully utilize that one console interface that they happen to have. So, with a single cross connect into the PCCW Global Edge, network edge, we want the customer to be able to fully utilize that port to whatever extent they want, as opposed to have to provision multiple cross connects and utilize multiple access ports in order to provision multiple services. So being able to host multiple services on a single port is, of course, critical to us. Secure, that's the buzzword of the day. The more secure we can make something, in times where we have a decision of, what can we do to make this more secure? Obviously, we're going to take that path and ensure that we have best of breed secure access around our portal interface for our customers, as well as the way that the platform itself is going to interact with the various clouds, service providers, and mission critical application providers. And then finally, it was very important that we allow people to scale up and scale down their network connectivity on demand, according to their own needs. Obviously, historically, this was something that couldn't be done that easily. It involved phoning your service provider and saying, hey, that 100 meg circuit that I had going into Amazon, well, I now need that to be 200 megs, and you wait multiple weeks for that to actually end up happening. We wanted to really short circuit that and put the control in the hands of the user. Next slide, please. So, private automated direct connections to your clouds, to your service providers, and your offices. And kind of walking through this, again, this is the fundamental of what software-defined interconnection is. On-demand, private, predictable, scale, secure, and connectivity anywhere at any time. That is the platform that we built, and that's the kind of guiding principle of the platform that we built. Moving on to the next slide, we've got a couple of kind of key areas that we use as guiding principles when we look at feature enhancement of the platform. Obviously, reducing the complexity, that was the first thing out of the gate. By going to a self-service portal where users log in and control and influence their own network connectivity, now regardless of where the network administrator is in the world, regardless of what time it is, there's a portal that they can log into 24/7 from around the world, globally accessible, and be able to both monitor and modify or net new provision circuits on the network. We want it to be extremely flexible, introduce options and variables that users may not have had visibility into before, for example. Not force them to be compliant to, historical or traditional, commercial aspects of network provisioning. And so that is really where you start seeing this ability to spin up and spin down circuits, to burst network connectivity for whatever reason. Obviously, by moving much of this network connectivity off the public internet and to a private fiber backbone, which PCCW Global owns controlling interest on, much as you heard Paul mention there, we're bringing increased performance to the user as well. They don't have to be beholden to, the whims of the public internet, to the 3.4 average hops along any particular internet circuit. This is going to be direct point-to-point, single hop, no matter where the user is going globally, and no matter where they're accessing that network. Commercial flexibility. Again, this goes back to the historical notion that users would sign a piece of paper, and not only did that lock them into a long-term commitment traditionally, but it also locked them into a long-term decision. So, you're a customer, you're sitting there, you're trying to decide what's going to be needed by your network 2 and 3 years down the road, and you're having to sign today about what that means. That's not a comfortable position to put a customer in, and we saw a way to change that, to allow them to really control their own destiny there and be able to make smarter short-term decisions, because they knew that tomorrow or the day after that they could burst this bandwidth or scale it back if it was no longer needed, or even move that bandwidth somewhere else to another geographic region, for example, where the demand was necessary. PCCW Global is a global IP Tier 1 network service provider that actually, we're very proud of that, obviously, and it has some particular industry benefits to it. The Console Connect platform, of course, allows the user to directly influence and provision circuits across that network. So, not only do we have, best of breed technology lying on top, but this network itself, the underpinnings of all of our service offerings are also obviously, best of breed Tier 1 providers. Again, I mentioned kind of at the top of my presentation that enterprises are looking to not only increase their automation, but to do it in a way that is the least impactful to their own operations. So we are an API-first development shop, which means that anytime we go to create a feature or extend a feature, we actually write the corresponding API for it first. And that is then what the implementation that we put into the platform utilizes. So this means that, from the get-go, we're thinking, how will the end user utilize this feature, and how can we make it accessible to them in the most direct and most simplistic way? So we write the APIs first and then expose that to the user so that they can take advantage of the programmatic aspects of the platform should they desire. Obviously, a key part of being able to provision circuits is the ability to also visualize and monitor those circuits. These are business critical enterprise applications that are running over this network, and so the enterprise wants to be able to see exactly what's going on with those circuits and monitor that. So we built that functionality into the platform as well, along with some alerting and capabilities which allow for the platform to inform the user when things are kind of going a little pear-shaped as well. And again, back to this concept of secure direct connects. By moving the traffic off the public internet, you're also moving away from leering eyes and distributed denial of attacks, those types of activities which have become fairly commonplace on the public internet. We're going to put all this mission critical traffic over onto some private interconnects and get it away from the riffraff, so we like to say. So again, that's kind of that last little important bit to us is having and offering that secure connectivity. Next slide. So you put all this together, we've got software, we've got a great network, and then we've got a community of users. And you'll kind of see that as I start walking through these next few slides. Obviously, much like the fax machine when it was invented, one single fax machine in the world isn't going to do you a heck of a lot of good. You need something to talk to. It's very similar here. We wanted to build a platform that would actually attract users that enterprises and service providers wanted to be a part of, so that flexibility and visibility can be increased, and more users can then be enabled to directly connect to their service providers and mission critical application providers. And that just increases the strength of the network overall. Moving on to the next slide. Now I've spoke a bit about our API. This is actually a little segment of it. Anybody who joins the platform, just as a community user, not even necessarily an actual paying user consuming services from us, they can come and take a look at our API. We publish it publicly, and take a look at exactly how they would interact with us. And we give them snippets, users guides, those sorts of things, to really wrap this up and make it extremely developer friendly for anyone that does want to interact with the platform. Moving on to the next slide, we've got a series of kind of very simplistic use cases here, but they do a very good job of kind of connecting the tangible, the real world, with this kind of ephemeral idea of a platform that allows for communication and service provisioning. First one is a hybrid cloud strategy. We come across this more and more with speaking with enterprise customers right now. They've already got a private cloud on site. They're running that in their data center, but they're now beginning to see need to extend outside that and begin connecting to the public cloud, either because that's where their service providers happen to be, or because they're running their own public cloud-based infrastructure as well. Bridging these two together not only is somewhat complicated depending on the technologies involved, but there's also a bit of a fear of bridging that which is behind the magic curtain and that which is publicly accessible. So the Console Connect platform allows people to very easily, or allows enterprises to very easily bridge these two in a secure and private manner. And in doing so, now you're going to significantly reduce the latency and improve the performance of both sides of this interconnect, actually, and especially any traffic that needs to pass from those on-site clouds into the public cloud and back. And by creating the connection into the public clouds over these secure, private, off the public internet pathways, now you've brought an increased level of security to the whole solution stack. Moving on to the next one. Short-term high traffic needs. This is pretty obvious. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had Black Friday here in the United States, closely followed by Cyber Monday a couple of days later. That is exactly what we had in mind when we kind of implemented some solutions around the high traffic needs, the ability for the user to very quickly notify or notice that there are increased needs on the network and be able to, in the span of 10 to 15 seconds, dynamically burst a circuit or multiple circuits as the traffic increases along those circuits. So, you think in terms of an e-commerce provider or, someone fulfilling e-commerce needs, this could mean the difference between having a really good day and having a really bad day. Similar thing for, gaming events. We've done a number of dynamic circuits on the platform already for global gaming events, where the providers are able to sit there and watch as the user counts increase for the event, and then iteratively step up the network along the way. That's giving them some assurances that they're fulfilling the needs of their own end users, but it also gives them assurances that they are maximizing their spend. They're not having to waste a bunch of money on network bandwidth capacity that goes unused, but they're able to know and they're able to have confidence that when they click that button to increase that bandwidth, it's going to be very quickly delivered to them, which is great. Moving on to the next one is your bog standard cloud connectivity. This is becoming more and more mission critical every single day, to be honest. The growth of Amazon and Google and Microsoft here in the U.S., and then Alibaba, Quinn Cloud, there are a number of them outside the U.S. as well. The growth of those clouds over the past 12 months more is just astronomical. And we're getting to the point now that enterprises are actually using the cloud, public cloud that is, as their sole provider of functionality to their own end users. So they're moving away from having data centers full of hardware because it's just proven to be not economical for them anymore. So as this push goes to the cloud, we really see the Console Connect platform as a method for them to bridge that gap and allow their users to still have that secure, reliable, and highly dependable connectivity into the services, but still allow them to benefit from the cost savings which come with moving to the public cloud. And in addition, all of these public clouds, or at least all the ones that we've implemented to this point, they actually offer cost reductions for the egress network charges by using these dedicated private interconnections, which is, it's kind of surprising that there will be a cost savings to going to a more secure, more reliable method of connectivity. But there really is. And so by the platform enabling automation into these clouds and really taking the burden out of the user having to provision that on their own, it's really good. And of course, again, multiple connections per port. We want you to be able to use the port for what you intend it for and not have to spin up multiple ports. Moving to the next one is variants on the theme, multiple clouds. So instead of just connecting to one cloud, now you, for whatever reason, or just to be able to offer some redundancy and resiliency to your applications, enterprises want to be in multiple clouds now. Obviously, those various cloud providers do not have a vested interest in allowing you to interconnect between them. Google doesn't want to tell you how to talk to Amazon and vice versa. So the Console Connect platform can actually kind of sit there in the middle as a kind of neutral Switzerland type role and allow for traffic to bridge between various clouds or between various regions within a cloud, whatever works best for the enterprise. Next one is our data center interconnection. Nothing new here. This is old as networks are. The platform allows enterprises to build dynamic interconnections between their own data centers. So, you know, maybe you're doing a lift and shift between data centers. Maybe you need to move backup and storage between data centers for whatever reason. Customer can come onto the platform very quickly, spin up a circuit of the appropriate size to be able to allow for that, you know, back and forth traffic, and then turn it down when they're done with it. They don't have to sit there and stay on top of that circuit and continue paying for it. Moving to the next slide is kind of a even more specific version of that, which is this low cost redundancy. This is a really good way to have that disaster recovery element to your network, but without having to pay you know, crazy amounts of money for it, which is historically how this has been. One of my favorite elements here is we've had a number of customers that have gone this route, and they will stand up two circuits. They'll stand up their production primary circuit, you know, whatever bandwidth is necessary to conduct day-to-day business. And of course, again, that's going to be scalable. They can burst and spin it back if they need it. But then they will go and stand up a secondary or backup circuit as well into their disaster recovery site, for example. But they will stand that up at a minimal bandwidth, you know, 1 meg per second, for example, and just leave it sitting there. And because of the programmatic nature of the platform, and because of some of the logic that can be built into the platform to automatically move traffic around should the user wish, they can just sit there with that little very small heartbeat circuit, 1 meg, and then in the event that that backup circuit is necessary, suddenly they can push a command to the platform that says, oh, oops, suddenly I need to burst that up to, you know, a gigabit, 5 gigabit, whatever, in order to handle this disaster recovery or this, you know, low cost redundancy option. And then when they no longer need it, they just push another command to spin that back down. That is a really good way for a user to get the most value out of their network provisioning. You know, obviously the cost of running, you know, full-time redundant circuits is extremely expensive. So we wanted a way to make that more accessible to users without having to force them over to that, you know, insecure public internet that we've been talking about. So that kind of wraps up the the use cases that we've mentioned. You know, coming back again to this idea of software-defined interconnection and the fact that with Console Connect, you can very easily spin up both layer 2 and layer 3 circuits, regardless of location, really regardless of technical knowledge. It really is point and click. And that in doing so, you're bypassing the public internet, moving this on over to private, secure, and dedicated connections. The time savings that is involved here is just really through the roof. Here's again, kind of a variant. Here you've got a headquarter with 2 data centers. They've interconnected the data centers to each other and then back to the headquarters, obviously. Now, in phase 2, they've got a partner that they would like to interconnect with, leverage that social community of more people being present on the platform to find those partners that by being interconnected with both sides of the business can really benefit. So we interconnect a partner there on the edge. A little while later, now we're looking at needing some private access to the public cloud. So this is, I want to begin pushing parts of my business to the public cloud. Maybe some database activities, some you know, some backup and storage, those types of things. Next iteration is, oh, wait a minute, there's some business critical SaaS applications now. We're beginning to use Zoom, for example, for our video conferencing, or we're beginning to use Salesforce for some of our CRM, ERP type activities. I want to be directly connected to those as well, because those are mission critical, business critical applications. And if I lose my connection to them, it's going to negatively impact my business. So I want to be directly connected to those as well. The amazing thing here is, as you can see from the little, what's turned into a bit of an onion there in the top left, all of this connectivity could be run from a single access port there at the data center for the headquarters, and being able to multiplex all of that across the single access ports is really a huge benefit. Moving forward, we've got a couple of core features. Interconnection made easy. I think I've beaten this one pretty hard to this point. It just takes one port and one cross connect, and interconnect is in just a few seconds. We do have both a web portal, so pretty pictures that you click on. We do also have Android and iOS applications as well, and then obviously that programmatic API interface as well. Moving to the next one, performance and availability. We have utilization metrics. We have alerts that will pop up and tell users when circuits are running hot. We have the ability to actually respond to those types of events by increasing and decreasing capacity or moving capacity around should that be necessary. So that was critical in our delivery of the application as well. And then obviously the global community platform as well. Historically, this idea of two enterprises or two companies interconnected with one another was something that was kind of formulated face-to-face, typically over handshakes. And we wanted to be able to reproduce that level of trust and level of familiarity in a web application. And that was a bit difficult, but we ended up with this idea of let's just build a community. Let's have network engineers be able to come and communicate with other network engineers and share just as they would if they were, sitting face to face and having these conversations. So that is really the power of that community platform and the power of it being global. It doesn't matter where the person's sitting. Your cloud's your way. Again, the end user wants what they want, and we want to create a platform that is as flexible as possible to allow the end user to achieve that. Next slide. That interconnection bit, it starts with people. This on the right is something we probably all recognize. That is some nasty looking Cisco iOS commands. We beat on command lines for years and years and years. Getting these types of changes pushed took hours and days for an enterprise. We wanted to do away with that, so we moved now to what it looks like now. Here in the next slide, no offline communication required. It really is as simple as click a button. Mention flexible commercials. It's pay as you go. You pay for what you're using. You pay for it for as long as you need it. And that single connection, being able to really fully utilize that access port, that is critical to us, and it's critical to us to be able to offer to our users as well. Summarizing these core benefits, on-demand usage-based. Again, as I said, it's pay as you go. You pay for what you use, and you don't pay for what you don't use. It's actually the best of both worlds. We want it to be in your control, in the control of the end user, that is, and we want them to be able to visualize and see exactly what's going on. Provisioning times, they are longest where it comes to directly interconnecting to the clouds. A direct interconnection into Amazon, for example, historically would have probably taken about 2 to 3 weeks to get all of the various network bits laid down. With the platform, we will go from soup to nuts, from start of provisioning to the circuit being active and live in about 2 minutes. And again, one click to interconnect. No matter who you're interconnecting with, it really is one click. We wanted to simplify that and normalize it so that regardless of who the user happened to be trying to interconnect with, it was a very similar and same pattern. That repetition is, of course, beneficial and brings confidence to the user as well. Next slide. Couple of benefits here about competitive differentiators. There are other vendors in the market who are playing in a similar area. What makes Console Connect and the PCCW Global unique? This networking community, again, built for network engineers by network engineers and for their collaboration together. That doesn't necessarily exist outside of the Console Connect platform. A trusted global tier 1 network that is global truly, and having it accessible to a user with one click. That is something that you can't find anywhere else. Service level offering, again, this tier 1 network has an incredible SLA surrounding it. The circuits that are provisioned via the Console Connect platform allow the customers to access gold class MPLS network. So, if you called us up, a year ago and said, hey, PCCW Global, I want a gold class of service circuit from New York to LA, that's exactly what you get through the platform as well. There's no difference there. Very flexible commercials. Not only can you bundle or go pay as you go with the Console Connect platform, but the ability for us to now bundle that with other services that the user may have with PCCW Global that are outside of Console Connect. Maybe they've got, mobile phone business or our global television network, or they're doing some DDoS scrubbing aspects, whatever. We can bundle it all together and, group it all together for the user. It benefits the user when it comes to invoice time, obviously. And using that single physical connection into us, being able to get the most benefit out of that without having to provision multiple circuits into the edge. And with that, I'm going to toss things back over to Paul to kind of conclude and get us into some questions. Paul?
Thank you. Thank you. Good job, Jay. A lot of stuff to cover there in a short period of time. Just to summarize on, as we have a lot of sub-agents on this call today, and you guys are going to have questions on how you get paid or how we interact with this and what's in it for you. The biggest thing to take away today is that PCCW Global is definitely strategically placed to help you with any international opportunities. So we're hoping as you see something, whether it's a small enterprise or a large company that does have some international sites and flavors, is to get Jay and myself engaged with my team. John Runsky's on the call as well today, my pre-sales engineer, and we help to qualify and help you walk through with the customer. Where we differentiate ourselves is we're willing to travel. We do a lot of whiteboard with the customer. We try to get engaged, and if you allow us and put your kid gloves down to get involved with your customer, that's where we help close a lot of these deals and help hold your hand through this process until you feel comfortable selling the Console Connect platform. So with that said, just looking down through here, there's a lot of commission to be paid. I think the big thing is 5-6 years ago, a lot of sub-agents and master agents out there didn't see the potential or didn't know about the international piece. It seemed to be most of a domestic market. And now a lot of things, a lot of companies are heading towards that international flavor, and there's a lot of commissions to be made. And we've got a lot of success stories out there traditionally right now that I could even talk about, one-on-one in regards to some of the success stories. But with that said, I just think there's a lot of money to be made in the cloud connectivity, SD-WAN, security side of things, and all the growth that's going on, and Console Connect's a perfect fit to kind of segue into that. Next slide. I think it has my contact information. I think most of you on this call today are already sub-agents that have reached out to me and John for quotes before, but that's how you get a hold of myself, and I'll get Jay engaged and John at any time, and we'll help bring this home for you. I'll leave that back to Gerald as far as the Q&A side of things, and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you both very much. Floor is now open for questions, so feel free to send any questions you have in the Q&A portal. I'd like to kind of keep the momentum rolling and kind of go a little bit deeper into the payment structure that you just mentioned, and maybe talk a little bit about the partner program and what's in it for the sub-agent here.
Paul, I'm betting that one's in your wheelhouse.
You know, I apologize. Could you repeat the question? I lost you for a second there.
No problem at all. I was just wondering, maybe we can keep the conversation rolling. You mentioned a little bit about compensation. What's in it for the sub agent. If you can kind of just provide a little refresher on the partner program and how the
Sure.
really is impacted.
Sure. When you engage a customer, and I think most of the sub agents know, they run this through masters, and masters traditionally run right around a 15% commission, and then they keep their little piece of the pie, and then the sub agent gets the rest of the commission. And with this platform, getting us engaged early before we register your customer, and you kind of tag that customer as being yours, that sends a flag to our office to make sure you're going to get compensated on the backside, whether the customer's registering through the internet themselves or you're helping to get them registered. I don't know all the details. We've got a couple of new guys that just came aboard with our company that are assuring us that that's how we're doing this thing. But as we onboard these people, we will definitely make sure that compensation's in there and make sure they're getting spiffs and whatnot, whatever we have running at the time.
Excellent, thank you. Here's a question for Jay. Can enterprises use Console Connect to provide access or connectivity to remote or teleworkers?
What a wonderful question. And this gives me a great opportunity to actually speak about kind of my team specifically. The short answer is, as of today, no. But the longer answer is the far more interesting one, and hopefully it speaks to the folks who have joined the call today. This is something that we've heard from a number of users now as we've gone out and begun speaking to our customers, our true customers. And so we went back, we being the development team, went back and we dove into this and we said, well, PCCW Global has an SD-WAN solution, and we've been successfully selling that primarily for premium general internet access. This would give us a great opportunity to now bridge that into our MPLS network, into this private network that we've got, and allow for exactly that, the road warrior situation where the remote worker, either in their home office or out on the road in a hotel, pops open a laptop and in the click of a button, suddenly they're instantaneously connected to their corporate MPLS network, and they've got that secure connectivity. So that, as I said, the short answer is no today, but the longer answer is we're actively in development of that, and we develop new feature functionality and deliver it every 12 weeks. So that's something that you will see us deliver here probably in the next quarter, in the first quarter of Q1, to allow for that very thing, yes.
Okay, excellent. Next question, can you maybe repeat some of the information about which clouds you're currently connected to?
Yeah, certainly. So today we have full automation into 5 different clouds, and full automation means that the user clicks and within the span of a minute or two is connected, and that is Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, Amazon AWS, obviously via Direct Connect, Tencent, and Alibaba or Ali Cloud. It goes by a few different names depending on where you are in the world. That's all fully automated. There is a bit of manual tinkering involved with a handful of others as we're in the midst of automating this connectivity as well. As folks can probably imagine, automating connectivity into these clouds involves collaboration from both PCCW Global and the Console Connect team, as well as the partner. So Oracle, IBM, Salesforce, Naver, and Quinn Cloud, those are all connected to our network, but involve a bit of manual tinkering to get everything connected. we, on behalf of the customer, will communicate with the cloud provider to ensure that everything is getting connected. So in the case of those last 5 that I mentioned, connectivity into those clouds may be 1 to 2 business days, as opposed to that 1 to 2 minute thing. And then behind that, it sounds farcical, but I have a list as long as my arm of a myriad of other cloud service providers globally, as well as some extremely regional ones who are interfacing with us to allow for that type of automation as well. So again, as with the Road Warrior question, this is a case where we're looking for customers to come to us and say, I would like direct private access into X and such cloud, and give us the opportunity to explore that and figure out whether it's something we can deliver and be a benefit to all involved.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question, how many data centers did you say that you're currently in?
Console Connect platform is currently available in 126 of our data centers. PCCW Global, and the number changes daily, but I think there's about 180 total data centers for our MPLS circuit, or MPLS services, sorry. So the Console Connect platform will continue to add new data centers, each and every day. So eventually we will have full coverage, but many of those that are not on the platform today are in regions that don't necessarily support higher bandwidth. We have a huge footprint in Africa, for example. Many of those do not really lend themselves to these types of services right now, so we haven't gone and popped those pops just yet, but 126 is the answer.
Excellent, thank you. Let's see, another question here. Can you provide a little bit more insight into some of your connectivity across the Asia region specifically?
Paul, you're far better at speaking about Asia than I am, but are you in a position to take that one?
Well, we've got John Runsky on the call, my pre-sales engineer, and he could talk more about the network and the build-out we have in the Asia Pacific. That's really our strong point. I'd rather have John speak specifically to that question.
As far as Asia, obviously we're in just about all the major markets within Asia that are open to us. Korea, Tokyo, Taipei, Hong Kong, of course, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia. I do see on the specifically 2 are asked for that we do not have right now, which are mainland China and India. Those are both closed markets to domestic carriers within those countries. We can partner with some of those countries for standard connectivity, but there'll be kind of a long line to get back to our Console Connect platform, which will, in most cases, for mainland China, would interface via Hong Kong, and for India, generally we interface through Singapore.
And now I understand that one thing we really try to impress here is that it's PCCW Global. It's Asia. It's also South America, Europe, and beyond. What about your presence in South America right now?
We've just over the last year really stepped up some expansion into South America, starting with Mexico, Panama City, Bogota, and Santiago, I believe, are what the ones we currently have up and running right now.
Excellent.
I think we have Buenos Aires as well now. I think that was a recent one.
Okay, we are running out of time here, but we do have one more question here. You don't use the term cloud native, but aren't you really enabling enterprises to become cloud native?
Yeah, I should have used the magic term. I probably screwed up someone's buzzword bingo today. Apologies. We really are. That's a great question. companies are trying to move to cloud native scenarios because it is such a huge cost savings. But one of the roadblocks to that was the fear really of, what's that going to mean with, some sort of internet outage or some sort of internet disruption. So by us providing automation into these clouds via these, each of their own little kind of discrete, bespoke, dedicated interconnections, we do provide a method for companies and enterprises to move to be cloud native, still retain that level of assurance and comfort with that particular delivery mechanism, and also allow them to offer that same dedicated, direct, private connection to their top tier of end users as well. So it cuts both ways, which is actually very, very neat and very functional for the enterprise as well. So yeah, it is an enabler, definitely.
All right, thank you very much. We are just about out of time here. At this point, I do want to announce the winner of the Channel Vision email contest. Congratulations to Jim Beard of ET Solutions. Our team will be in touch following the event. Big thank you to all of our presenters here, the rest of the PCCW Global team, and of course to all of you for attending today's event. For more information on PCCW Global, please visit pccwglobal.com. You'll also be able to access this webinar on demand on channelvision.com/webinars following the presentation. Thanks, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.